A farming technique was practiced across Germany and Eastern Europe for hundreds of years. It required no fertilizer, no irrigation, studied for many centuries, and then, around 1920, it vanished, as if an entire agricultural system was erased. For now, the knowledge was simply never taught again. The industry took advantage of it in the silence gain, $105 billion a year. What this technique is, why it disappeared. And you might be surprised to find that you can apply this right in your own garden. If this is your first time here, subscribe us to support the work. And stay until the end. The most important piece isn't what you think. Think about the last time you built a garden bed. You spend $300 to $650 building a garden bed that shines in April and struggles by August. The soil compacts, the nutrients fade, the boards rot, and you rebuild. Do that for 10 years, and that single 4x8 box costs you nearly $2,800. But with that method, that costs between $0 and $50 total once. It needs no watering after the second year, no fertilizer after the first, and grows more productive for the next 20. The technique is called Hügelkultur. Back to 1962, in the mountain village of Ramingstein, Austria, winter lasts nearly half the year. At 1,500 meters above sea level, the local agricultural office is confident about what can and cannot grow in that climate. Sepp Holzer is 20 when he inherits his father's farm. The neighbors stick to the crops that barely survive the cold. The experts recommend flat fields, straight rows, conventional methods. Holzer walks into the forest above his land instead. There, he notices a pattern. The richest soil and the earliest spring growth don't appear in plowed fields, but around fallen trees' logs, slowly breaking down beneath moss and leaf litter. Snow melts first near them. The ground stays darker, warmer, more fertile than the exposed fields below. So instead of copying the neighboring farms, Holzer copies the forest. He buries logs beneath his fields, shapes the land into mounds, and digs ponds where agricultural engineers insist ponds should not exist. The fines start almost immediately. Local officials cite him for unauthorized ponds, for reshaping the land, for breaking agricultural regulations. Over the years, the penalties stack up into the hundreds. Around the village, he earns a nickname, the Madman of Krameterhof. Engineers come to inspect the damage they assume must be there. Instead, they find something they cannot easily explain. Soil temperatures measure 2 to 4 degrees Celsius warmer than neighboring fields at the same altitude. Crops thrive where they should struggle. Lemon trees ripen in a climate that supposedly cannot support them. Holzer does not argue. He keeps building. And then in the 1990s, something shifts. University professors begin arriving to measuring soil temperatures and documenting yields that challenge what they were taught. They document yields that contradict everything the textbooks predict. One by one, they stop trying to explain it away and start trying to understand it. The question they kept asking was simple. What is happening underground? The first layer is water. As wood begins to rot, its internal structure made of lignin and cellulose starts to act like a sponge. 1 kilogram of dry wood can eventually hold 3 to 5 kilograms of water within its fibers. During dry periods, that stored moisture moves slowly upward into the soil, feeding the roots above. If you have ever lifted a fallen log after a week without rain, you have seen this. The surrounding ground feels dusty, but the soil beneath the log is still damp. Hügelkultur simply places that same decomposing wood under your garden bed and allows it to function as a long-term reservoir. The United States Forest Service has documented that rotting woody material can retain between 200 and 500% of its dry weight in water. That means you are not building a garden bed. You are burying a reservoir. A single oak log, the size of your arm, once fully saturated, holds enough water to fill a standard kitchen sink. Buried 2 feet underground, it releases that water slowly over weeks. But water retention is only the beginning. The second layer is fertility. As wood breaks down over 10 to 20 years, it slowly releases carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus into the surrounding soil. This is not a sudden surge that washes away with the first heavy rain, but a gradual feed that mirrors how a forest nourishes itself year after year without fertilizer bags or chemical inputs. Long-term trials at institutions like the Rodale Institute have shown that systems built around organic matter continue improving soil structure and nutrient availability over time. A conventional raised bed typically loses fertility each season and needs to be replenished. Hügelkultur moves in the opposite direction. The longer it sits, the richer it becomes. A bag of garden fertilizer feeds your soil for roughly 6 to 8 weeks. The wood buried beneath a Hügelkultur bed feeds it for up to 20 years. That is not a marginal difference. That is a different category of thing entirely. 2 layers in, and the science already makes a strong case. But the third layer is the one that stopped scientists cold. In 1997, Suzanne Simard, a forest ecologist at the University of British Columbia, publishes research in Nature showing that trees are connected through underground fungal networks. Through these mycorrhizal threads, they exchange carbon, water, and chemical signals. A single teaspoon of healthy forest soil can contain miles of microscopic fungal filaments working continuously between roots. Think of it less like soil and more like a city with infrastructure already built underground, full of roads, pipelines, communication lines, waiting for the right residents to move in. Buried wood is what builds that city. Decaying wood is one of the primary places these networks anchor and expand. When logs are buried beneath a garden bed, they do more than add organic matter. They create a long-term substrate for fungal communities that link plant roots together, improving nutrient flow and resilience. So, if the ecological science has been public for decades, why is this method still absent from most mainstream gardening advice? In fact, no one could realistically have banned this method even if they tried. It simply couldn't keep pace with how rapidly agriculture industrialized. When farming mechanized in the 1920s, priorities shifted decisively toward flat-ground standardized layouts and systems that worked efficiently with tractors and large-scale distribution. Buried logs and uneven mounds didn't gradually disappear because they failed. They slowly faded because they didn't align with the new machinery. Agricultural education evolved accordingly, focusing increasingly on what could be scaled, measured, packaged, and reliably sold. Over time, backyard gardening quietly absorbed the same logic. Soil became something you regularly purchase. Fertility became something you periodically replace. Water management became something you systematically install. Bagged growing media now generates roughly $6 to $7 billion globally each year. Residential fertilizer in the United States contributes approximately $2.8 billion. Home irrigation systems account for nearly $6 billion annually. None of those revenue streams operate comfortably within a system that largely feeds and waters itself for decades. A raised bed works on the same logic as a razor handle. Sold cheap, the money is in the blades you keep buying forever after. Except the blades are soil, fertilizer, and water every single season indefinitely. So nothing dramatic happened. No sweeping ban. No coordinated decision. Just a steady economic gravity that gradually redirected attention toward inputs and away from independence. If you never encountered this method, it wasn't because you overlooked something obvious. The system simply evolved in a direction where self-sufficiency became commercially irrelevant. But here is what that system could not suppress: the results that real people kept getting. In places like Texas, Colorado, and Arizona, where summers are long and rainfall is unreliable, gardeners began noticing the same shift. The first year feels ordinary. The second year, they water less without trying to. By the third, many simply stop using irrigation altogether. In a few cases, water utilities have even called to ask whether the meter was malfunctioning. The drop in usage looked like an error. There's nothing mystical about it. In the Pacific Northwest, researchers at Oregon State documented seedling density around nurse logs running 4 times higher than open ground nearby. The only variable was the rotting wood underneath. Its wood slowly decomposing, storing, and releasing moisture exactly the way Holzer observed on an Austrian mountainside decades ago. By 2011, the same farmer once fined for digging ponds was advising governments in more than 40 countries. At that point, the question isn't whether it works. The only real question is how to build it correctly, because there is one mistake that quietly undermines most first attempts, and almost no tutorial bothers to explain it. Building one requires almost nothing. The only rule that matters before the steps, and the rule that almost every beginner gets wrong, is this: do not use fresh wood. Wood that was recently cut goes through an early decomposition phase that temporarily pulls nitrogen from the surrounding soil before it begins releasing nutrients back. The result is a first-year bed that underperforms, and a gardener who concludes the method doesn't work. Use wood that has already begun to decay, bark peeling away, surface soft to the touch, gray or brown rather than pale white. If you can press your thumbnail into it, it is ready. Start with a 4 by 8 foot area. Dig down 8 to 12 inches and set the soil aside. Lay your largest decaying logs along the bottom, each one at least 4 inches across, fitted together as tightly as the shapes allow. Fill the gaps with smaller branches. Avoid cedar and black walnut, both of which contain natural compounds that slow decomposition and can inhibit plant growth. Cover the logs with a 6-inch layer of smaller organic material, dry leaves, straw grass clippings, anything that will break down. On top of that, add a 2 to 3 inch layer of nitrogen-rich material to activate the microbial community. Fresh grass clippings, vegetable kitchen scraps, or aged manure all work well. Finally, return the topsoil you set aside at the beginning and cover everything with a minimum of 4 inches. Water the entire mound with one deep, thorough soaking and then leave it alone. What no tutorial ever mentions is not plant nitrogen-hungry crops, corn, squash, pumpkin in the first season if your wood is not fully decayed. Plant light feeders instead, lettuce, herbs, flower. Give it 2 growing seasons before you judge it. There is one honest limitation worth saying plainly. If your available space is smaller than 4 by 4 feet, the buried mass is too small to create meaningful water retention. And if you need results within a single month, this is not that method. This is a method for someone who plans to be gardening in the same yard next year and the year after that. Somewhere out there right now is a log rotting quietly in someone's backyard, being ignored, waiting to be hauled away or burned. That log is 2 years away from being the most productive square footage in the neighborhood. Most people who watch this will find that interesting and move on. A few will go outside this weekend, dig a hole, and drop something in it that costs nothing. Those are the people who in 3 years will have stopped buying bags entirely, while the rest of the street is still loading up the trunk every April, wondering why the results never quite match the price tag. You already know which one you want to be. If this is the kind of thing you want to keep finding, give us a subscribe and comment topic you want to discover next time, because there are more methods like this waiting. Older than any garden store, cheaper than anything on the shelf. And for some reason, nobody is talking about them. That changes here.